Have you ever wondered how dog food is made?
Once, briefly, but then a squirrel ran by.
Well, there are several ways. Each involves different methods of processing, and each method affects the ingredients in different ways. In fact, it wouldn't be incorrect to say that the processing method is what really determines what winds up in your dog's bowl. This is the Dogomentary channel, and today we're taking a look at how they make kibble, freeze-dried and fresh dog food to help you understand what's actually in your dog's bowl. Kibble is the most popular and widely available kind of dog food, and that might be because kibble is a fun word. It rhymes with scribble and nibble, and they're fun words too. Whether the process of making kibble is fun, we can't say, but we can tell you that kibble is an ultra-processed food manufactured through a process of extrusion at temperatures often exceeding 300 degrees Fahrenheit under high pressure. If that sounds like a lot, well, it is, and it takes a toll on the food. The extrusion process degrades the food's heat-sensitive nutrients, denatures its proteins, and creates advanced glycation end products, otherwise known as AGEs. AGEs are a natural byproduct of high-temperature cooking, and since kibble is cooked at such extreme temperatures, it contains significantly higher AGE levels than minimally processed foods. Is that bad? Well, maybe. On one hand, a number of individual studies of humans have suggested links between AGEs to a wide range of frightening health conditions, including, but not limited to, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, chronic inflammation, and oxidative stress. That being said, the most comprehensive systematic review done to date found no convincing evidence for any of those links. So what should you take from that? Well, the jury is still out on AGEs, and they're still the subject of active research. Until the scientists sort the whole thing out, we'd say they should be treated as a plausible concern for every dog parent.
I had no idea kibble was cooked at 300 degrees. Of course, I only learn new things if I'm repeatedly bribed with treats, so I wouldn't expect it to stick.
Kibble may be ultra-processed, but not every type of dog food is, because on the other side of the processing spectrum, there are more minimally processed options, like freeze-dried raw food. Manufacturing freeze-dried food entails preserving the raw ingredients through a process called sublimation. For those of you who aren't currently in a 9th grade physics class, that's the process of freezing the food, then placing it in a vacuum where the ice turns directly into vapor. No liquid phase, no cooking. In a sense, the sublimation process is the exact opposite of high-temperature extrusion used on kibble. True to that, freeze-dried raw food contains more nutrients than kibble. Many brands of freeze-dried raw food are also subject to high-pressure processing, known as HPP to the abbreviators of the world. The process uses extreme amounts of water pressure rather than heat to kill pathogens like Salmonella, E. coli, and Listeria, while simultaneously preserving nutrient integrity. And make no mistake about it, untreated raw meat-based diets do carry real pathogenic risks. We don't want to gross you out or anything, but a 2019 study found Enterobacteriaceae in 87% of untreated raw food samples and Clostridium perfringens in 64% of those samples. If you don't know what those things are, they're things both you and your pet would rather not be eating or even touching. In fact, the reason most vets recommend against raw feeding isn't because of any potential harm to the dog itself. dogs have shorter digestive tracts and more acidic stomachs than we do, so they'll be fine. That doesn't mean they're immune, but the warning is really because of zoonotic risk. No, that's not the risk of being hypnotized in a zoo, although that is always a concern. It's the risk of pathogens spreading to humans through the handling of raw food. But HPP-treated freeze-dried raw food is not the same as just throwing some raw chicken in your dog's bowl. HPP's kill step changes everything. That's why HPP matters, and why the exact same technology is used on human-grade products like deli meats, juices, and even baby food.
If all that's true, then why do my parents always get so angry when I HPP on the living room rug? Riddle me that.
Whether raw or lightly cooked, fresh food, even when it's been refrigerated or frozen, is as far to the minimally processed side of the spectrum as you can get. Some people will take that to mean it's the best, but we wouldn't tune out just yet. Being completely unheated, fresh raw food retains all of its nutrients, including amino acids that help doggy digestion. It's also biologically appropriate for canine types. As previously mentioned, however, raw food carries a high risk of pathogens. Remember that cuddly little enterobacteriaceae? Lightly cooked fresh food is, well, lightly cooked. So it has been heated, and therefore doesn't do quite as well as raw in the nutrient department. It beats everything else though, and that light cooking eliminates pathogens. So there's a bit of a trade-off. But whether it's raw or lightly cooked, keeping the fresh food fresh requires a cold chain. That sounds like something superheroes fight over on some icy planet in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But it's actually your own personal temperature-controlled supply chain. You need it because if you're planning to take your dog on vacation, you're going to have to take its fresh food with you, and that means keeping it cool for the whole ride. Doing so is neither easy nor cheap, and failure to do it right creates a significant risk of bacterial proliferation. That can be very bad for both your dog and any humans in the car. Some dog parents who use fresh food substitute freeze-dried raw in such situations to try and wriggle out of the whole cold chain thing. Not least because freeze-dried raw is safe to eat at room temperature, but not every dog will be willing to make the change.
Humans assume dogs will eat anything, but that's just a stereotype. Of course I will, but there are definitely some dogs who won't. Probably. Maybe?
At this point, some of you are probably thinking something like, this is exactly why I buy the pet food recommended by my veterinarian. And that is a good strategy, as long as you keep certain things in mind. If you've seen our video about who actually owns your vet, then you already know there's been a great deal of corporate consolidation in the veterinary care industry over the past few decades. As you might imagine, all that consolidation has had an influence on product recommendations. Why? Because it pushed thousands of veterinary clinics, including VCA, Banfield, and Blue Pearl, directly into the hands of corporate pet food manufacturers like Mars and Nestle. Whether that creates a conflict of interest is a question worth asking. We're not telling you not to trust your vet or not to consult with them on what food is right for your dog. In fact, we encourage it, but we also encourage you to make sure you know who owns the veterinary practice you visit and whether that practice's product recommendations are purely clinical or not. Then head down to the pet store and buy the food you think is best for your dog.
You know, I would do it for you if our situations were reversed. So,
Did any of this make you think twice about what you're putting in your dog's bowl? Let us know in the comments below and tell us what other canine queries are on your mind. And of course, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the Doggomentary channel.